called this presentation today Less Work and Better Results because basically that has been the theme of my life for the past year. And I'm going to dive deep into this, but basically, in a nutshell, it's how to live in harmony with who you are as a female, with your biochemistry, with who you were created to be as a female. So if you stick around, I have a little gift that I'm going to offer you at the end. Oops. And I'll tell you more about that at the end. So, all right. So just to introduce myself for anyone most of you guys know me, but just for anybody who doesn't, my name is Danny Smith. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach. I have a lot of experience in teaching and some other career adventures that I've taken in my past, but I'm also a wife. I'm a mom of two beautiful children and one fur baby. I was born and raised in Canada, and though I've been on many travel adventures in my life, I'm still living here in Canada, just outside of Toronto, Ontario. So I am going to go out on a limb and say that if you're here today, it's because there's something about your health and wellness that you're not satisfied with. So perhaps you're experiencing chronic fatigue. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you have this foggy mindedness. That was honestly the biggest thing for me. I actually experienced all these things in the past, but the foggy mindedness and just feeling like I was forgetting things, I wasn't on top of things. Like it was just, I was getting so frustrated with myself because I just couldn't, try as I might have tried, I could not seem to stay on top of everything that I wanted to be on top of. Maybe you're experiencing inflammation and bloating. Maybe you have this overall feeling of like, I don't know if you guys ever felt this like slowness and heaviness, like I just don't have the reaction times that I want to have, or I'm just feeling like I can't move, like I'm not light. You want this feeling of lightness, right? Like you can be on your toes. Maybe you're feeling disappointed because you're not in the place in your life where you want to be, or maybe you're not who you want to be as a person. Maybe you're having body image issues. I have someone messaging me, of course. I hope that they're not having technical difficulties right now. Okay. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 sec. And maybe you're feeling at war with food. I actually didn't realize that I was having those feelings with food, like I wasn't at peace with food. I didn't realize that until I started going through this journey, and then it became very apparent. So that's why I'm really passionate about sharing these with people, that we actually intentionally reflect on this, especially as women. And maybe you just feel like you can't really put your finger on it, but you're not feeling like your best self. Maybe you're just feeling blah. Um, and you might be thinking, well, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I just can't seem to get started. Or maybe you have a few tricks up your sleeve. You're like, I have a workout regimen, or I have a diet that worked in the past. But then you're kind of thinking about it and you're realizing, well, I guess it worked for a little bit, but then inevitably I ended up back where I started, or sometimes even in a worse place than you started. So I have some questions for you today. So do any of these phrases sound familiar, things that you've said in your own head? So there aren't enough hours in the day. My anxiety is through the roof. Sometimes it's hard to stay focused. Have you ever said anything like that to yourself? I'm feeling overwhelmed by my schedule. I feel like I'm shortchanging my kids or my friends or my partner, whatever it is. I feel frazzled. That was me all the time. I used to feel like that. I don't have the energy to do it all. I don't have time for my partner and or friends. I can't say no to junk food. Sorry, I didn't change that slide there. Can't say no. Maybe you're feeling like I can't say no to junk food. It's just like no matter how hard I try, it's just so alluring. I just can't say no to it. Or this is one I hear very often. I eat really healthy during the day, but at night I just can't seem to control myself. So I have really good news for you. It's not you. When you feel like you're not your ideal self, the tendency is to push, to squeeze in another workout, to cram in another food prep session. If this is any of you guys, if any of this feels remotely familiar to you, I'd love for you to type the number 3 in the chat. Feeling like you just need to do, if I could just do that one more thing, if I could just fit that other thing into my schedule. And you might say things like, if I could only be more organized, if I could only have more willpower. Oh man, I hear that all the time. Even if you're not saying those words, there's a lot of undertones to like, it's me. I should have more willpower. Um, you might be saying something like, if only I was more like my friend Jen or my friend Lauren, whatever it is. Um, but what if, just imagine for a second, what if it's not you? What if you've just been taught to do life in totally the wrong way and taught to do life as a female who is created in a specific way to do life in a way that is not aligned with who you are and who you were designed to be? So, what if there was a better way? A better way to be healthier while doing less. I'm telling you guys, it's a thing. Trust me, stay with me. You guys might be like, oh, I'm out of here. But trust me, I'm telling you because I've been doing it for the past year. What if there was a better way to be more efficient at work? What if there was a better way to manage your time more effectively? To feel more energized, creative, and joyful. This has been so, so, so big for me, and just to improve your overall health and wellness without feeling like you're adding like additional things. You're going to learn as we go through today that actually less is more. And that's kind of been my mantra and my secret for the last little while. So we're going to take a little detour. So, um, this way, it doesn't involve doing more things, rather, doing things in a much different way. So if this all sounds good to you, you are in the right place. And I just want to ask you, do you want to know the big secret? You guys want to know? Type a 7 in the chat if you want to know the big secret. So there's actually two, and both of them boil down to one concept. And I know it can kind of feel scary sometimes. This is actually the first few sessions that I work with my clients often is just kind of like getting the courage, dipping the toe in the water to do something different. But I promise you, it holds the key to a healthier version of you that's actually sustainable, that's attainable and sustainable. So here it is. Are you guys ready? I gotta get back to my thing. I got way too many things open here. Listen to your body. It seems really simple, and I know, please don't leave. So you guys are gonna be like, are you, is she serious right now? I'm leaving. No. Okay. Listen to your body, learn to love, accept, and trust yourself. But I'm actually gonna break down what that means. I'm not just giving you something fluffy, I'm gonna break this down. With as much time that I have, I realized very quickly as I was preparing this that I don't even have even close to the amount of time that I need to go through all of it. So for the next about 15-20 minutes, I'm going to give you like the nuts and bolts of it, and just kind of share with you how you can learn more if it's something that you're interested in. So I know that this idea of listening to your body is like, so seems really simple and it might seem silly, but please stick with me, and this is why. So we as women walk around in these incredible machines that we call our bodies. These machines that are already programmed to heal themselves. They know exactly what it needs. Our bodies know exactly what they need. These bodies create and nurture life. They create life. We could not have procreation without the female body. That is so amazing. I think we have the female body has been completely undersold to us. It is so powerful. It's a powerful wonder. And it's funny, just to like speak to the patriarchal society that we live in. My son's learning how to play chess right now, and I'm reading the instructions because I'm kind of learning with him. And it says the king is the most powerful piece in chess, and I'm like, of course it is, right? I said to him, not in my game, not in my game of chess. But then I read on and it says it says the king is the most important piece. The queen is the most powerful piece. And is that not the truth? We hold the power. And the problem is we actually just don't see that because we've been taught to live in kind of a backwards way as a woman. So I'm going to break this down and explain exactly what that means. So your body is actually communicating with you on a daily basis. And the problem is that you've been taught to ignore, most of us have been taught to ignore this amazing machine that our souls are residing in right now. So you've likely been taught to look for answers externally, to learn, about diet, to learn about workouts and all that stuff, to look externally. And it's not to say that external information is bad, but what I will tell you is that the answers you need lie within. And it's funny because when I started my journey doing this health coaching stuff, I thought it was going to look one way, and what it's turned out to be is me teaching women how to listen to their bodies, how to trust themselves, how to get connected with their intuition. Um, and I will tell you, I know it might seem and sound fluffy, and part of the reason is that science actually has a hard time. Um, when you actually research the brain and study intuition, for example, it's invisible in the brain. So it's actually not understood scientifically. But I think we all know that it's a thing. Like if you've experienced any sort of intuitive experience, you know that it's a thing. Like you go out on a date and you know, like, oh, this is the one, or this is not the one right away. Or you interact with somebody and you just know right away that something is off, something's wrong, stuff like that. So it's a little bit undervalued because it's misunderstood, but this is the key to living a healthy life that's actually peaceful, that feels like it's flowing, that we can just let go of all the fighting, all the rigidity, all of this like push, push, push mentality, and learn to live at peace and in sync with our bodies. So there's two concepts that I'm going to be talking about today that I'm going to briefly introduce. I'm going to do my best to kind of give you the nuts and bolts of them, but just know that I'll always be around for questions and stuff if you guys want to dive deeper. And so the two main concepts are cycle syncing, which means aligning your life activities with your female biochemistry. Okay, ladies, this is like one of the most interesting things you'll ever learn about. It literally, if you've never heard about this, get ready for your mind to be blown. If you have heard about this, please stay with me because trust me, you're going to want to hear this again. And there's always ways to dive deeper into this. And the more you dive deeper, the better results that you're going to get. So that's the first concept. And the second concept is intuitive eating. So learning to trust your body's innate ability to know what nourishment it needs. That's what I've been coaching on for the past year. And I will just really kind of breeze through that part today. But again, will be available if you want more information. So before, I had a hard time finding the perfect image for this part, but just come along with me on this journey and hopefully I'll be able to do a good job at explaining it. So just to kind of sum up cycle syncing. So again, it's aligning your life activities with your biochemistry. So with your hormones, basically your hormone cycle. And what's interesting is that we're taught at a very young age to be ashamed of our period. And maybe not all of us, but I know most of us. And we kind of expect negative symptoms like cramps and PMS and bloating, that sort of stuff. And we're taught that our period is something to deal with instead of a powerful force to be listened to. So before I let you know what's going to work and the things to do, I want you to understand why what you're doing right now might not be working. So we've all heard the saying, we're living in a man's world. Here's the thing, it's actually true. The male body follows one cycle, which is the circadian cycle. So that's the 24-hour clock, and that we all follow as human beings. We as women follow two. So we have that one, but we have another one that's actually dominant over the 24-hour cycle. So the male body just so happens to perfectly align with this 24-hour clock. And I'm going to show you how. So in the morning, testosterone levels in a man and cortisol levels are at their highest. So when he wakes up, he's feeling energetic, he's feeling communicative, he's laser focused, he feels ready for sex, and that's what the cueing the morning erection, that's actually happening hormonally, right? So this is the time when a man is super efficient and is ready to get stuff done. In the afternoon, the testosterone starts to decline, which puts a man in the mood to socialize and connect with people. See how that kind of aligns with the way things are right now? This is when he wants to pitch ideas to clients or network with colleagues, or maybe meet up for a date. And in the evening, the testosterone levels wane even more, which make him more sensitive to his estrogen and generally more interested in like the cocooning sort of idea. So sitting on the couch or finding other ways to quiet the mind. Notice how this lines up perfectly with the average day of a human being. It's not by accident. Like it was designed this way, right? So this is great news for men, not so good news, not such good news for us as women. So we as women actually follow a 28-day-ish cycle called the infradian cycle. By the way, if you are postmenopausal, you can actually follow this as well. I can't get into the nitty gritty details of it right now just because I don't have time. But it is actually still important for you to know this stuff because I know there's going to be questions about that, or if you're perimenopausal. So I can kind of connect with you afterward to be more specific about that. But this part is still really important, so you can listen up. So our hormones as women, and again, I didn't find the best images for this, but I have a good description for you guys. So in our 28-day cycle, our hormones are different. Our hormones are not the same every day like men's are. Men, the day resets, they wake up in the morning, cycle resets, right? It's a new day every day for them. This is not the same for us as women. We have different hormone levels at different times of the month, which means, and I'm going to dig into this, okay, this is the juicy part, which means that we have different levels of productivity at different times of the month. We have different preferences for socialization at different times of the month. We have different needs for rest at different times of the month. So here's what our cycle looks like. So phase 1 is the follicular phase, which is 7 to 10 days. Phase 2 is ovulatory, 3 to 4 days long approximately. Phase 3 is the luteal phase. Oh, this wasn't this bad quality when I first brought it up. Okay, so this is your luteal phase here. That's the longest one, 8 to 10 days. And then the menstrual cycle is usually menstruation is 3 to 7 days. Now I'm going to break this down. Here's the mind-blowing part. Okay, listen for the next like 5 minutes. This is like life-changing. So phase 1 of the follicular phase is kind of what we call the prepare phase. So it begins right after the bleed ends. At this time, our hormones are at their lowest concentration. So estrogen levels are just beginning to rise. And this is the time when we kind of have this feeling or this longing for a fresh start. So this might be a time when you're excited to start that new workout routine, or you're excited to jump back on your diet, a new diet that you maybe done in the past or whatever. So just keep an eye out for that and see, maybe you can even think back over the last couple of months and see if that maybe aligned with that sort of mentality. And it's also, this is the phase where you're really creative. So this is a great time of the month to plan to do any sort of creative projects that you have in your mind. I love syncing my songwriting with this time. And I'm telling you guys, I've had some mind-blowing things happen where I've like written some of my best songs in like 15 minutes. Just because I've been in general living in sync with my cycle, but then really honoring this phase for creativity. Phase 2 is the ovulatory phase, which is 3 to 4 days. And this is when we really open up. So we're really social during this time. So this is when the egg is released into the fallopian tube. We have a dramatic rise in estrogen levels at this time. And that's what kind of makes us, there's also, I'm going to explain this later on about serotonin, but this is what makes us really social. This is a great time to communicate. So this is a good time to like plan sort of presentations or meetings or interviews if you can, right? We're still functioning within society, but if you can schedule things at those times where you're presenting or you need to have like an important conversation, it's a really good time to do that. Phase 3 is your luteal phase. So it's 10 to 14 days long. So this is our longest phase. And this is the time for work. Notice that not all of the phases talk about work, and it doesn't mean that we can't work but this at the other times, but this is when we really want to capitalize on what's happening chemically in our system. So we have a spark of production of progesterone, and our estrogen is going to continue to rise at this time. Okay, so these are when estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone are at their peak concentration, which means that we're ready to work, we're ready to be productive. If you can align your activities where this is where you really focus on getting stuff done. I love to make sure I clean the house. I like meal prep at this time, and I make sure I plan like heavy projects for work, like planning and creating stuff at this time as well. Because I'm telling you, when you start to live in sync with this, I have sat down at my computer during the luteal phase, especially the first half of it, And like, it feels like I've gotten 5 days worth of work done in one day. And there's other times, usually around my period, that I sit down and I could sit at my computer for 3 hours and feel like I got 15 minutes worth of work done. And it's not something that's made up. This is something that's happening biochemically in your system. And this is why I'm saying it's not you. You are living in a world. Think about being I always say this wrong, a square peg in a round hole. We're trying to fit something that doesn't fit. So can we change our culture and the way that we work? No, but we can change the way that we live our day-to-day lives to live more in sync with who we were created to be, who we were designed to be. Um, During the luteal phase is also where a lot of women might experience PMS. And there's this general idea that that's just normal, and it's just part of having your period, but it doesn't have to be. So, again, the more you can live in sync with your cycle, which I'm going to tell you more about, the more that you're going to see these sort of symptoms dissipate. So, the reason that this is happening, PMS, is because there's an imbalance of the ratio of estrogen to progesterone. You don't need to understand what that means. You just need to know that that's the reason that it's happening. So there's actually a reason that PMS is happening. It's not because you were born to just have that burden on you. So what the good news is that you can do something about it. And just as a side note, a lot of this information I'm getting, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it because I have my background blurred, is from this book called In the Flow. I should show you guys what this looks like. It's like highlighted and notes everywhere because it's just such an amazing book. And I can share that with you afterward, but it has basically all these tips and secrets in it. And I'm condensing a lot of this for you, and then obviously including the nutrition aspect. Phase 4 is your menstrual phase. So that's 3 to 7 days. Okay. I feel like I want to share my screen with my notes for you, but then I feel like I'm going to get myself into trouble. I'm not going to be able to get myself up. What I have in big writing is rest. Rest. We actually have to purposely plan times to rest. And I'm going to explain this in a minute about how important this is. But before I do, just talking about when we have our period, our hormone levels are at their lowest in concentration. This is when the uterus is shedding its lining. This is a very good time for reflection, for looking inward. For me, when I'm on my period, it was like such a relief. I've experienced so much validation from knowing that this is what's happening to me hormonally because I do naturally want to withdraw. I like to spend time by myself when I'm on my period, and I don't necessarily want to be around people. And it has been really, really healing for my marriage to be able to communicate that to my husband. And I've actually been communicating it with my kids as well. So they understand it's not about you. It's not that I don't want to spend time with you. This is something that I'm going through. And this is actually a really beautiful and important part of my life. It's really important to stop and to reflect on what's going on. So if you find yourself doing that at this time of the month, that's actually very normal. And it's really important to recenter yourself and decide where you want to move forward, so that when you hit the follicular stage again, you're ready for that fresh start in whatever adjustments that you want to make. So just really briefly, I'm going to pull this up for you, but I'm basically going to be speaking to it in the next couple minutes. So I just want to explain to you really briefly, I do not have time to go into like you guys should see my notes right now. I'm like, okay, I have to summarize 7 pages in 4 minutes. More like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'll do my best here. Okay. So in the brain, what's happening is that when we have high estrogen levels during ovulation, what that actually creates is mental sharpness. That's why we feel like we're creative, or we feel like we have good communication skills, because it's actually a thing that's happening chemically in our system. It also enhances the release of serotonin. So you'll actually usually find that the first half of your cycle, you feel happier. And that's a thing. It's actually something happening that's creating that. And then that's what's making you more social, you're feeling more verbal, and that sort of thing. In the second half of your cycle, your estrogen is falling, which means your serotonin levels fall as well, which shifts your cognitive focus. So just really, really, really want to lean into the fact that one is not good or bad. They're both extremely important. And so falling hormone levels in the second half of the cycle In the first half, we're very outward focused, right? We're communicative, we're social, we're creative, we're doing things outward, producing things outward. In the second half, we actually are being allowed to turn inward, turning our attention inward to nurture ourselves. I'm going to say that again. We are allowed to turn inward, turn our attention inward to nurture ourselves. If there's one thing that I come across time and time again in my coaching, it's this idea, it's this feeling, and it's really cultural conditioning of perpetual productiveness. We cannot be in perpetual harvest or constantly in service to others. Nature actually demands that we take time to rest and to attend to our own needs in order to create balance in our lives and create balance in our hormonal cycle. Okay? How do I do this in the next minute? Okay. I'm just going to speak to food really quickly. So, in order to live in balance with your cycle or in harmony or in sync with your cycle, we can actually balance and should actually balance our food and align our food and our workouts with that. So, let me just skip forward here. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. So in the first half of your cycle, you actually have a slower metabolism. So it's very natural for you to not want to eat as much to be satisfied with less food. The second half, your metabolism is faster. So it's very normal and very healthy to want more food, okay? And to not be as satisfied with lighter food. Same with workouts. Your metabolism is slower in the first half. So you actually, and we've got estrogen levels at lower levels at the beginning. You can actually, it's a great time for high intensity workouts. When your metabolism is naturally faster in the second part of your cycle, that's when we turn to slower resistance training. And then when you're on your period is a really, really good time for like deep stretching and rest. You can actually qualify a nap as a workout during your period. It's really, really important. And we'll be able to get into the details, but in a nutshell, when you're on your period, your hormone levels are really low, including testosterone. So if you're trying to do weightlifting, you're actually creating something you're sparking something in your system, a chemical reaction that actually promotes fat storage. I can't go into the details of it, but this is what's happening. So when you're not honoring your cycle and you're just doing the same workouts every day, you're actually being counterproductive to what's happening in your biochemistry as a female. Again, if you want more information about this, I'm going to show you how you can get that. And what's really cool, I'll just kind of share this one study before I give you some next steps, is there's this woman, Stacy T. Sims. I'm trying to pull up her qualifications here. She was a triathlete, and she started doing these studies because she realized in one of her competitions, her time was really bad. She was feeling really exhausted, and she was like really disappointed like with her results at the end. And she started polling the other participants, and she found out that at women, she was in the second part of her cycle, the second half of her cycle, and she found a very clear trend that other women who were competing against her that were in the second half of their cycle experienced the same things, feeling more tired, feeling more drained, and not getting good results. And then the women that she polled that were in the first half of their cycle were very happy with their times, did not feel like they were experiencing fatigue, felt like they were able to hit peak performance. And what's really cool is I was actually studying a little bit about this, and the female Canadian soccer team, who we know is a really successful team, they actually design their training and their lineups around the cycles of the women on their team. So just a testament to how powerful that this stuff can be. So this is like this image here kind of gives you a general idea of how to follow this. Really, you can make super, super simple changes when you get started. It's as simple as when you're on your period, really low intensity exercise, if any. Eating warming foods like soups and stews. That's what I'm doing right now. It's just really simple adjustments. In the follicular stage, really leaning into the creativity, honoring activities that allow you to be creative. You can have more high intensity training at this time, so interval training. And then you can eat some high protein foods, leafy greens, and so on and so forth. In the ovulatory phase, when your estrogen is peaking, again, you can be in those high intensity workouts. And there's foods that are really great for supporting. One thing they recommend is having raw foods at this time, because our internal temperature is at its highest at this time. So raw foods are really great for like a cooling effect. There's also some stuff around vitamin B as well. And then the luteal phase, we start to the beginning of the luteal phase. You can do um, weight resistant, like you can do weight resistance, like resistance training. But you're going to notice a drop in energy, especially in the second half of the luteal phase. So you really want to focus on vitamin C rich foods. And then there's stuff about complex carbs, which are really going to help you with your metabolism speeding up, for example. And that's really, really great to support you in this phase. So I'm sorry that I can't go into greater detail, but what I'm going to do is share with you when and how I'm going to be going into greater detail about all of this sort of stuff. So I have a program, a group coaching program. I'm just going to talk about this for 1 minute, called Women of Wellness. And basically what it is it's 16 sessions where you're going to get, these are the values, by the way, this is not the price, not even close. So I'll tell you what the price is afterward. But we're going to be doing 16 sessions where we jump on online and we do these sessions. If you can't make the sessions, they're Wednesdays at noon. If you can't make the sessions, everything's going to be recorded. So you're going to have access to the recordings, even if you want to go back and watch. You also get 3 private coaching calls so you can really dig deep and dive deep into your personal journey and your personal healing. For example, diving deep and healing any sort of things around emotional eating or historical eating, which is I didn't get into intuitive eating at all, but that's a whole other thing. By the way, intuitive eating and cycle syncing marry so beautifully together, and that's what I love. So excited to be in this space to be able to do that. And then I have this new app that I'm using called Voxer. So if you decide to do the Women of Wellness, you get access to me. So you can just, it's kind of like a walkie-talkie. You can type to, but you can just ask me questions, or even say like, I'm struggling with this. Like, can you help me have a different perspective? Or can you sometimes it's just validation that we need. Like, yeah, that's very normal. Remember, you're on your period, so you don't feel like working out. Not a good time to start something new. And then you're going to have access to our Facebook community, which is just a beautiful space to be able to connect with others, again, experience that validation, cheer each other on. So if you register in the next 3 days, I have an additional private coaching call that I'm offering. So you actually have 4 total, which is awesome. Those coaching calls are 50 minutes long. So this is how you apply. So I'm going to send you all the details for this. So if you have questions or you want to just go over it, I'm sending you all the details in a follow-up email. But basically, you just reserve your spot, so you register. You're going to book a discovery call with me so I can really get clear on what your goals are personally. And then you're going to join the next session, which is September 28th. You can use that QR code right now if you want to do it. But I'm going to give you all of this information. And what I want to say to you too is that the main things we're covering are going to be intuitive eating, emotional eating, and really diving deep into the cycle syncing. You can grab this book and go on the journey on your own if you wanted to. I personally love doing it within a coaching program because it makes me show up for myself. The money investment makes me show up for myself even more. So you've got double accountability there. And then you have external support, somebody who's going to check in with you for that accountability, but also cheer you on, encourage you, and help you see things. Usually we tend to be a lot harder on ourselves than we are on other people. So I'm going to send you all that information. I am so excited for this coaching. And what I love is it's more accessible for somebody who might not be able to do the private coaching. So this is the investment. You can do a one-time payment of $11.97, or there's monthly payments of $329. So it's 4 payments total. If you have questions about that, you can let me know as well. It's all in Canadian dollars. And then also in the follow-up email, I'm going to send you your little free gift. And this is so powerful. This is something I work with my clients about, is this intuitive eating daily journal, which is going to help you pause and create some pattern interrupts around food. Really step away from automated eating and start to have intentional eating. And that's really what my motto is with this, is like stepping out of automation and moving into intentional eating, intentionally living in sync with our cycle. and just intentional living in general, like being really intentional about how we spend our time, about what and who we give our energy to, and just being really, really purposeful about it so we can be empowered to steer our lives in the direction that we really want to steer them in. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen. If you guys have any questions, I'll stick around for a couple minutes here. I'm going to stop the recording here. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I really hope to connect with you. And if you have any further questions, you can email me, like reply to the email that I'm sending out, which you'll get in the next half hour with the recording if you want to rewatch it. Or you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook as well. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today.